Eddie Murphy's story is one of genius, fame, scandal, and whispers that never die.
17 on 4, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Get up.
He was the 19-year-old kid who saved Saturday Night Live, the young star who made America laugh harder than ever before, and the first black comedian to become a global box office king. But behind the scenes, Eddie's career was haunted by rumors about his sexuality, haunted by scandals that tabloids feasted on, haunted by accusations that he sabotaged himself just when greatness was within reach, and maybe most of all, haunted by Hollywood itself, a system that crowned him king, then quietly turned its back on him when he refused to play by the rules. This isn't just Eddie Murphy's Hollywood success story. This is the other story, the one Hollywood doesn't want to tell. Born in 1961 in Brooklyn, Eddie Murphy's childhood was no fairy tale. His father, a transit police officer with dreams of stand-up, was murdered when Eddie was 8 years old. His mother grew ill, and Eddie and his brother Charlie spent time in foster care. The Eddie Murphy that the world came to know, the swagger, the bravado, the quick wit, was born out of survival. Comedy wasn't just fun, it was his armor. By 15, he was sneaking into clubs, doing impressions of Richard Pryor and Bugs Bunny. By 19, he was on Saturday Night Live. But that pain never disappeared, and some say the darker sides of his personality, the arrogance, the self-sabotage, the need to dominate, were planted in those early years of loss. Eddie himself once admitted in an interview, "I always had to prove myself. From the time I was little, I had to make people laugh or I'd disappear." At 19, Eddie Murphy walked into Saturday Night Live at a time when the show was dying. In one season, he turned it into his personal playground. Buckwheat, Mr. Robinson, Gumby, characters that became national obsessions. Eddie wasn't just good, he was electric. He didn't just save SNL, he became the show. Hollywood followed. 48 Hours made him a movie star. Trading Places made him a household name. Beverly Hills Cop turned him into the highest-paid comedian in the world. By his mid-20s, Eddie Murphy wasn't just a star, he was an institution. But with fame came ego, and with ego came controversy. Delirious and Raw cemented Murphy as a stand-up legend. They also aged like poison, homophobic slurs.
I did dad jokes about homosexuals about a couple years ago, and faggots were mad. They were like, it's nothing like having a nation of fags looking for you.
Misogynistic jabs, mocking the AIDS crisis. Eddie's jokes were brutal, unapologetic, and often cruel. At the time, arenas roared with laughter. Decades later, those same routines sparked outrage. Activist groups slammed him, and Murphy, decades later, was forced to acknowledge his past words. Murphy would apologize years later, saying, "I was young and full of ignorance. I'm not that guy anymore." But the damage was done. Clips of his old routines still resurface, still stir controversy, and still haunt his legacy. Through the late 80s and 90s, Eddie was untouchable. Coming to America, Boomerang, The Nutty Professor, Dr. Dolittle. He could do it all. Raunchy comedy, family-friendly blockbusters, even animation with Shrek. But critics noticed something. Eddie was becoming safe. He wasn't pushing boundaries anymore. He was cashing checks. The man who once felt dangerous was now playing goofy multiple characters in fat suits. Some say this was the beginning of his decline. Others say it was a deliberate choice. Murphy choosing the money over the art. Eddie, in one candid moment, admitted, "They call it selling out. I call it buying in." It was the early morning hours of May 1997 when Eddie Murphy was pulled over in West Hollywood. In his car was a transgender sex worker. Murphy insisted he was just giving her a ride. The tabloids didn't buy it. Overnight, the scandal dominated headlines. Jokes about Eddie exploded on late-night shows. Hollywood insiders whispered that this wasn't the first time, that Eddie had a secret life. Rumors spread of Eddie's name appearing on discreet lists of celebrities who paid for the company of transgender women. Some claimed he had been quietly protected by Hollywood until that night. Others believed this single incident was enough to taint his image forever. The truth was never proven, but in Hollywood, sometimes whispers carry more power than facts. In Eddie's silence, His refusal to address the rumors beyond a quick denial only made the speculation grow louder. After the scandal, speculation about Eddie's sexuality became permanent background noise. Was he bisexual? Was he hiding a secret lifestyle? Hollywood has a long history of punishing black men with sexuality rumors. Richard Pryor, Luther Vandross, even Whitney Houston faced whispers. Some argue Eddie was no different, but the timing of the rumors, just as his career was peaking, fueled suspicion. Was this tabloid gossip, or was someone pulling strings behind the scenes to bring Eddie down? After 1997, Eddie's career cooled strangely fast. Studios hesitated. His name wasn't as bankable. Even the press turned. Some insiders claim Eddie was quietly blacklisted. Not officially, but socially. Hollywood has its power players, its hidden rules, and its lists. Eddie, with his scandals and arrogance, may have ended up on the wrong side. Others believe Eddie removed himself, refusing interviews, dodging premieres, and rejecting roles. His brother Charlie once hinted, "Eddie, don't trust this business. He knows what it does to people." Whatever the case, one thing is clear. The industry that once worshipped him suddenly kept its distance. In 2006, Eddie delivered the performance of his career in Dreamgirls. He was vulnerable, intense, and brilliant. Critics declared him a lock for Best Supporting Actor. But weeks before the Oscars, Norbit hit theaters. A movie critics called offensive, juvenile, and humiliating. Its timing was disastrous. Theories exploded. Some believe Murphy sabotaged himself, unwilling to be boxed into serious roles. Others think Hollywood voters used Norbit as an excuse to deny him, because Eddie wasn't respectable enough. When Alan Arkin won the Oscar instead, Eddie stormed out of the ceremony. He never got that close again. Eddie's own words didn't help. When David Spade mocked him on SNL's Hollywood Minute, Eddie refused to return to the show for decades. His explanation? They were kicking a man when he was down. "I'm not your punching bag." On critics, he sneered, "I've made billions for this industry. I don't need their approval." On Hollywood politics, he hinted at backroom corruption. "There are lists in this town. Who gets in? Who gets out? I don't play that game." To some, he sounded bitter. To others, paranoid. But to Eddie's fans, it was proof he was telling the truth about a rigged system. Hollywood gossip around Eddie didn't stop at his sexuality. Whispers claimed he hosted legendary parties at his mansion, parties where anything went. Rumors of drugs, orgies, and backroom deals followed him. Stories floated about payoffs to tabloids to kill scandals. Others suggested he was targeted because he refused to bow down to Hollywood elites. Whether true or not, these stories turned Eddie into a myth, a genius comedian wrapped in mystery and chaos. Murphy's clashes were legendary. His falling out with Richard Pryor, his rage at David Spade, his dismissal of the media. Even fellow comedians whispered that Eddie had become difficult, controlling, and unwilling to take advice. By the 2000s, Eddie Murphy wasn't just out of the spotlight. He was isolated. He rarely gave interviews. He lived behind the gates of his Beverly Hills mansion, a recluse who occasionally surfaced only to cash huge paychecks. In 2019, Eddie came roaring back with "Dolomite Is My Name," reminding the world of his brilliance. His long-awaited return to Saturday Night Live won him an Emmy. He hinted at returning to stand-up, as if reclaiming his throne. But even in redemption, the shadows followed. Fans celebrated his comeback, but the rumors, the scandal, the lists, the sabotage, still lingered in the background. Eddie Murphy's legacy is undeniable. He was the first black comedy megastar, paving the way for Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and Kevin Hart. His influence is everywhere, but his story is also riddled with controversy. Was he blacklisted by Hollywood? Was he punished for being too wild, too unapologetic, too unwilling to play the game? Did he sabotage himself out of ego, or did the system take him down? The truth may never be known. What we do know is this. Behind the screen, Eddie Murphy was not just a comedian. He was a lightning rod for controversy, a man who gave the world joy while battling whispers, scandals, and secrets that will follow him forever.